How long have you owned your Apple Watch? And if you don't have one, when do you plan to get one? Because you're missing out. Well, I've owned an Apple Watch since the 3rd grade, but it wasn't this one, obviously. My first Apple Watch was rather the Apple Watch SE first generation. And I had a small idea of what I could actually do on it. But now, after years of immersing myself in tech content and learning about all sorts of different tech, I learned how much you can really do with Apple. And these 5 apps reflect on that. So whether you own an Apple Watch, plan to get one, or are just curious about the apps I mentioned today, come along and let's get into it. Hey there, and welcome back or to the channel. Today, I'm discussing 5 not sponsored apps that show what your Apple Watch can really do that Apple hasn't technically allowed yet. By the way, my hair is growing out a little longer, so I'm kind of looking like myself almost from the first video on this channel. And I'm also trying out some different editing techniques, some different lighting techniques. So just tell me what you think of this video altogether, and if you want to, also the hair, because I'm trying some new things today. So I don't know how it's gonna go, and I want to hear your thoughts. So, as I've already mentioned, I got my first Apple Watch in around the middle of the 3rd grade. Now, I knew nothing about technology, nevertheless, Apple Watches, so I thought that the Apple Watch my dad picked out was the greatest thing ever. And honestly, it was a really good Apple Watch, and it lasted me a really long time, and I thought that it was just so cool that I basically had a simplified phone on my wrist, except my parents actually allowed me to have it. Then one day, I started getting deeper into technology, and as my knowledge of tech grew, my Apple Watch got older, and I realized that it wasn't as great of a watch that I had originally thought it was. Anyways, 2 Apple Watches later, I now own the Apple Watch Series 10, which perfectly aligns in the release date with my iPhone 16, which I'm recording on right now. And since owning every Apple Watch of mine, I've learned about a couple of cool apps to use. And these are especially great for people or even kids who may have an Apple Watch and no phone, or people who just don't take their phone with them in many places. Say they go out, for a quick, bite or something, go out, just drive to the store real quick, and they just leave their phone at home, These are good for you, and just people who also just has their Apple Watch as a backup in case something happens to their phone. But I'm yapping too much, so let's get to the first step, because that's what you're most likely here for anyway. Advisory: some of these apps may require an iPhone to actually install on the watch, but I'm pretty sure there are workarounds if you don't have your own phone. But I don't know, comment down below maybe if any of them don't work, and just let me know, and I can probably, add some stuff, or just even let other people know. Just advise them if some of these apps don't work if you only own an Apple Watch. So just let the people know. Thanks. Starting off strong with one of the greatest apps I would probably install on an Apple Watch, and that is Ant Browser. And basically, it's just what it sounds like. Obviously, the Ant theme is with the tiny browser theme of the Apple Watch, which is really clever, and you can do everything you would probably need to do on it, with researching something up or searching something up real quick on Google, for example. You can even change your search browser, but unfortunately Google doesn't work perfectly. For example, if I search for something specifically on Google, it works for a second, and I can definitely get the answer to my question and maybe some change, but then the dreaded turn on JavaScript to keep searching message appears. I tried asking ChatGPT to see if there's maybe a workaround, but it doesn't seem like there is. I mean, if the developer could fix that, that would be really cool, but you can't really blame him, as he does specifically state that DuckDuckGo does work best, and of course, the Apple Watch isn't technically supposed to even run Google, or really any search engine for that matter. Also, not every website fully works, obviously, because it's literally unsupported software, but it can actually give you the answer to your question, especially if it's a simpler one. I do doubt, though, that any school project research could be completed on this device, though, so stick to your Mac or your Windows laptop. You can also add and edit bookmarks, which is pretty cool. Being nitpicky, for some reason the YouTube icon is also like really pixelated and low quality. So if you could fix that, developer, that would be nice. I don't know if any other icons are like that, but I've just found YouTube's so far. Also, YouTube doesn't technically work on it, but I know this isn't the developer's fault. Also, you are limited to a certain number of searches a day unless you upgrade to AMP Pro, which I did do because it's only like $5 like once. To have unlimited access to searches and basically the whole app. So I think it's worth it, especially if you are going to be using it a lot, or in my case, just want to be able to use it as much as I'd want. Overall, the app is really great, super easy to learn and use, and is really well made. So good job, Jonathan Lau. I hope I'm saying that right. But if you could fix the JavaScript thing, that would be awesome. But otherwise, I love the app and not many complaints for an app that really shouldn't work on Apple Watch anyway. All right, on to the next app. So Steps app needs a phone to download it. And I know this for sure. But if you don't have a phone, I do probably think there has to be a way to get it on your watch. But I don't know for sure, but there has to be, right? I don't know. If there's a way, you can try it, comment down below, because everything helps. I mean, I know I have a phone over here, but I bet there's at least somebody out there who probably isn't watching this on their phone and, is actually like in need of these tips. So if you have that, viewer, if you have this information, you know how to install apps, say you yourself don't have a phone and you know how to install apps without needing a phone, the apps that like require a phone that don't need a phone, then please comment down below, because that would be really helpful for, people who also might need that. Anyways, if there is a way to get it on your watch without a phone, Steps app is really great for tracking your steps. And it also has widgets to add to your watch face, which makes checking your steps really just take a flick of your wrist. You can also do workouts within the app, see kcals, miles, and minutes walked for the day. Also, it syncs with your Apple Health, so that's pretty cool. Of course, you could also use like the built-in activity app on the watch, but Steps app does give you more information overall and also widgets that you can like add to your watch face, so that's pretty good. Worst case scenario, if you can't get Steps app to work without a phone, if that's what you're trying to do, then there is another app I've used in the past called Do Steps. This one doesn't have widgets, but it still can do everything you would need it to do, just like Steps app. I forget some of the features it could do, but really the importance of it is just that it works without a phone, so that's pretty cool. But honestly, there's not much to talk about for the watch app of Steps app, but I still knew that I had to mention it. If I ever make an iPhone apps video, I'll probably mention it there more. In the meantime, let's move on to the next app. So to be honest, I got this app a lot more recently than like any of the others, but I thought about trying it to see if it was actually maybe worth a spot in this video, and I would say that it does. I mean, I can literally watch AugsterStuff 24/7 with it, and that's just baffling to me. Like, I don't really know how they even do it. So if you pay for premium, which is about $8, you can sync your Google account to the app, which I don't trust. You can also have more of like an advanced video control panel, and the videos can like actually save in progress. You can come back to a video later and it'll be basically in the same spot you left off, which isn't a huge deal, but still is pretty cool. But I can also watch Rick Astley in full HD with premium, so that's pretty cool and might just even be worth the $8. This app is obviously more of like a novelty though, sort of like Ant Browser, even though it can have some actual function, but it still is a pretty cool app to use on the Apple Watch, technically for free. And I guess you can also stream music that might not be on Spotify or Apple Music with WristTube, because like every song ever is on YouTube, so I assume it's on WristTube as well. So this one is interesting, but it's basically ChatGPT /Claude /Grok /DeepSeek and / like every AI basically ever made, but for Apple Watch. You could also consider this app as a slight novelty, but I do think it's actually super useful for people who actively need to find answers to things like this and may only have their Apple Watch available. Advisory: this app costs money. $1.99 to be exact, but that's why I saved it for the end. But if you have $2 to spare, this is a really cool app that is filled with a bunch of games, all made to kind of look sort of like retro, which is pretty cool. And the app even saves like your previous progress from games you've played in the past on this app, so that's another plus. So if you're ever stranded and maybe just like a little bored without your phone, you could bust out this app and have the time of your life. Some of the games include car racing, bowling, Tetris, Snake, pinball, maze puzzles, Simon Says, Whack-A-Mole, and a whole lot more. There's also a phone app for whoever would want these games on their phone, but personally, I'm not one of those people, so I just deleted it, and the Apple Watch app works perfectly fine. But yeah, that's all the apps for today. Subscribe and comment below with your thoughts on some of my choices if you want. And if you found this video useful or just think that some of these apps are cool, you could give this video a like if you'd like. Sorry, that was bad. Also, I'm still trying to reach the goal of 100 subscribers, and when this happens, there will be a Q&A video. And if you want to see a part 2 of this or any other video in specific, just show the channel some support, subscribe, and leave those comments below. Like the video and really just stay engaged because that's the main goal. But yeah, that's it for today, so see ya.